Out now on Blu-ray from Severin Films from 1976, Grizzly. The first, arguably one of the best Jaws ripoffs. You see, Jaws came out in 75, and Grizzly was sort of the first out of the gate Jaws knockoff. Jaws with claws, it's been called. It's basically the same structure as Jaws, but with a giant grizzly bear. And instead of, Massachusetts ocean, it's supposed to be Pacific or California, Pacific Northwest California woods. It really was Georgia. Ever since then, at least one a year, we have had Jaws knockoffs. So we go back to the beginning with Grizzly. Directed by William Girdler, who made a bunch of entertaining films. Sadly died very young while scouting locations for a film in the, I think it was late 70s, early 80s at the latest. He had done other films like Day of the Animals, which I'll be talking about separately. The Manitou, which was a lot of fun. This movie called Project Kill with Leslie Nielsen doing martial arts. In the 70s looks fun. He did a bunch of interesting things, and he gets sort of a repertory company, or at least for a few films. He liked working with some of the same actors. So Grizzly stars Christopher George as sort of the Roy Scheider character, and you have Andrew Prine as sort of a mix of the Richard Dreyfuss and the Robert Shaw character, and you've got a mayor who doesn't want to hear about this murders that are going to cut into the camping trade, and it's again, structurally it's Jaws, but it's really well done. It's a blast. It's as the voluminous supplements point out on this disc, pretty gory for a PG. This is one of those movies where if you're like me, you just pop in a movie. What the rating is doesn't care. It doesn't matter. And then at the end of the film, the rating card comes up and you're like, what? That was a PG? People's arms literally go flying off in this movie. The gore is serious, brief, kind of laughable just because you don't expect it, but it's well done. And you watch this thinking, wow, that's PG. The definition of what PG is has really changed over the years. PG, I'll say this a million times. I remember going to see in 1980 as a 6-year-old at the drive-in the night the lights went out in Georgia. And that movie was rated PG, and there's full frontal female nudity like in the first minute of that film. PG basically was anything that wasn't hard enough to be an R in those days. Now PG is almost universally considered to be children's films now, or family movies. Very, very rarely. I think The Winslow Boy was the last movie I remember seeing that had a PG rating that wasn't really just aimed at kids. So we go back to the 70s with Grizzly. You've got a cast of several familiar faces and then several amateurs, but everybody in it is good. And it's just gorgeously shot. It's shot apparently in a lot of the same locations. Some of the extras on this disc, they say, they stayed at the same hotels where the cast and crew who shot Deliverance had stayed, and the beds were still warm from when they left. There was a few years span between the two movies, but Deliverance had recently been shot in the same area, and it's beautiful American natural resources. It's beautiful mountains and trails and rivers and streams, and a gigantic grizzly bear that's just shredding people in the woods. It's very well made. It's very fun. Maybe laughable at times, but I had a blast watching Grizzly again. This is a movie I first saw Cap'n R&R Video in Claremont, New Hampshire. They used to have this is the VHS era, they had certain tapes at the video store that would have a $1 rental sticker on them. And I was a kid without a lot of cash in my pocket, hungry to see as many movies as I could that I hadn't seen before. And a lot of those $1 rentals tended to be old, trashy horror exploitation junk, i.e. exactly what I want to see. So I first saw Grizzly as a pan and scan VHS media home entertainment videotape for $1 and thought it was fun. And over the years I've seen it and I've liked it more and more. And now on this new Severin Blu-ray, which looks great, it was even, I think it's the most fun I've ever had with it. It's a really well-made movie. It's fun. It's lean and mean. It's not very long. It's probably about an hour and a half. And it doesn't waste any time getting to it. It's got a good score. I mean, I really, really enjoyed Grizzly. As far as Jaws knockoffs go, as I say, this is probably, for me, the best one, other than The Last Shark, because that's one of the most ridiculous. So Severin this has been released before. Code Red had it out on DVD I don't think Blu-ray. Severin had it out before on Blu-ray. This is sort of an upgrade personally for me from the previous Severin Blu-ray that I had. A lot of new extras, 2 commentaries, which I'm in the middle of now and are very entertaining. One is from a couple of film historians, and then one is from people who actually worked on the film, actor and or producer, I think, writer who worked on the film. And then you've got featurettes. You've got featurette about Nathaniel Thompson, who wrote a really, really great book called Nightmare USA about indie regional horror films in America in the 70s and 80s, I think. He hosts a featurette on this that's about the career of William Girdler, the director, and it's really interesting. Gives you a nice overview of his sadly relatively short career. And overall, you have cool new behind the scenes making of featurettes, plus you have the ones that are carried over from previous releases. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you're a fan of Grizzly that this is a newly remastered version of the film, so it looks better than I've ever seen it. And you've got whatever extras you probably had before in addition to new extras. So it was a really good time. I thoroughly enjoyed this new Severin Films Blu-ray of Grizzly, which is out now. And